In 1982, the world of cinema was introduced to the character Rambo in the action drama First Blood. It tells the story of a troubled Vietnam vet suffering post-traumatic stress disorder after his traumatic experiences during the war. Rambo also suffers from misguidedness and isolation, and one day while hiking through a small town, he comes face to face with bully Sheriff Teasel, who instantly doesn't like the look of Rambo and wants him out of his town. And after an escalating confrontation, Rambo wages war against the local police, where he flees to the nearby mountains and prepares for his own protection, with the town police and army now waging war against one man who is an unstoppable killing machine. The only person who understands Rambo is the man who created him, Colonel Sam Troutman, who trained him and made him into the deadly weapon he now is. Troutman joins the mayhem to try and reason with Rambo to stop. The character of Rambo became so popular, he would return in sequels, where we would see him take on entire armies, along with other medias. But underneath the action and explosions of Rambo, there is still the tragic story of a damaged man who has been through a great trauma, who maybe one day will be able to heal his troubled soul. And I still think, even to this day, that First Blood is one of composer Jerry Goldsmith's most powerful movie scores. So with that, today I am going to look into 10 amazing facts about First Blood and Rambo, to see if underneath the explosions we can find more things to make us appreciate this tragic character even more. So, let's do this.
It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!
Number 10. Based off a book. First Blood was originally a book that was written by David Morrell in 1972, and there are several differences between book and movie. For example, in the book, John Rambo isn't John Rambo, but instead simply Rambo, and the now famous Rambo knife isn't in the movie. In the book, Rambo isn't hiking in Washington DC, but instead hiking through the state of Kentucky. In the movie, Rambo is only responsible for one death, but even that was in self-defense, whereas in the book, Rambo was a lot more brutal and kill-happy, as he murdered police officers, soldiers, and civilians alike. And in the book, Teasel isn't a sheriff, but instead he's the chief of police. And in the book, he's a lot more sympathetic, whereas in the movie, he's just an unlikable authoritarian character. In fact, in the book, like Rambo, Teasel is also a war vet, having been through the Korean War, as if suggesting that both Rambo and Teasel are characters damaged by the traumas of war, rather than the movie where Teasel is just a bully who bit off more than he could chew. And the book even ends with both Rambo and Teasel killing each other in a shootout.
Rambo, don't do it!
I'm glad that in the book the Teasel character had a different spin, because in the movie I felt like he was just a jerk and, well, that's it, he was just a jerk. Number 9. Based on a true story. In a case of art imitating life, David Morrell definitely wanted to show how the traumas of war can affect individuals long after the war itself, and how it can affect their lives and have great impact on them when they return home to their communities. Well, part of the inspiration for First Blood was based on real-life World War II veteran Audie Murphy, who when he returned home to his community after the war couldn't cope with his post-traumatic stress, which was so bad he took to alcohol and pills as a coping mechanism. And as we have learned from wars since then, that sadly seems to be a common occurrence with soldiers returning home. Number 8. First Blood's production hell. It was a long haul from 1972 when the book was published to 1982 when the movie was released. The script had been through a staggering 26 rewrites, as it seemed that no one could agree on how the story should be presented on the big screen. And in addition to that, no director wanted to direct it, and no actor wanted to star in it. Eventually, Ted Kotcheff, who originally was working on the script, took on the job of directing. Probably because they couldn't get anyone else. But hey, going by the end results, it totally paid off. Even when Sylvester Stallone accepted the role of John Rambo, he regretted it, and only started to fully invest in the character when he turned up on the set in the town of Hope, Canada. But to be fair, a trip to Canada will make anyone optimistic and happy. Number 7. Kirk Douglas was going to be Colonel Sam Troutman. Hollywood heavyweight Kirk Douglas, best known for his work on Spartacus, The Vikings, and Past the Glory, was originally cast as Rambo's chief and mentor, Colonel Troutman. And Douglas would have been a wise choice, as he had years and mileage on him, but he could also be tough at the same time. However, Douglas kept wanting changes made to the script. He wanted the movie to represent Rambo as being more of the movie's villain and Troutman as the hero, along with the movie ending with Troutman murdering Rambo in a glorious manner. Suffice to say, the studio didn't like the idea and refused, so Douglas packed up his years of experience and left. Where Richard Crenna came on board and was cast in the role. And personally, I really liked his portrayal, as he has a subtle power and command about him, but also comes across as very likeable. And looking at his face, you can tell this is a man with many dark secrets and tales from the past. And he says one of my favourite lines in movie history, which is, "A good supply of body bags. Just don't tell Johnny." Number 6. First Blood's original ending could have prevented a franchise. Rambo would become well known for its subsequent sequels that would follow, including Rambo First Blood Part 2 in 1986, and Rambo 3 in 1988, and then Rambo in 2008, the fourth one which you should watch on an empty stomach, by the way. And then that 2019 movie, but let's face it, that felt more like a Rambo movie in name only. No offense to those who liked it. Most people seem to agree that although the sequels could be enjoyable, they were lacking the serious dark nature of the first movie, and were basically reduced down to generic dumb action movies, be that very entertaining ones. However, Rambo very nearly didn't become a franchise, as the original ending would have seen Rambo grabbing Troutman's gun while he was holding it and then shooting himself, leading to Rambo's gloomy end. And the only reason it was changed is because test audiences absolutely hated this ending and wanted to see Rambo survive. Yep, had this ending stayed, you could forget about the sequels and Nintendo game. But once again, because the test audience hated this scene, they decided to refilm the ending where this time Rambo lives. Where instead of dying, he does his screamy, shouty speech.
No one help me say, please, I want to go home, I want to go home. He keeps calling my name. I want to go home, Johnny. I want to drive my Chevy. I said, well, what? I can't find your fucking name.
Couldn't understand a word of that, but okay. Number 5, video game. So in 1987, Rambo got his own video game on the Nintendo Entertainment System. The game was released just after Rambo First Blood Part 2 came out, and it follows the plot of the second movie closely, where in order to get out of jail, Rambo must get into action in the jungle, where it's your basic side-scroller, where he takes on his most deadliest enemies yet, snakes and butterflies. Yeah, that's right, snakes and butterflies. This game isn't regarded highly among gamers as it's notorious for its awkward gameplay, lack of guns as promised on the game's cover, along with claims that it's something of a rip-off of Zelda 2. And something else that baffles gamers is a scene at the end where Rambo throws a kanji symbol at another character which turns said character into a frog. I guess Rambo studied at Hogwarts? How awesome would it have been if Rambo 2 ended with Rambo turning everyone into frogs? I mean, yeah, it'll be insane and make no sense like the game, but people would still be talking about it. People would be like, hey, what's with that Rambo movie where at the end Rambo turns people into frogs? See, that would be awesome. Number 4, animated series. So that's right, Rambo, a story about a Vietnam vet with post-traumatic stress disorder, got his own cartoon for all the kids at home to watch. Released in 1986, the animated series was called Rambo, the Force of Freedom, where Rambo is now part of a super team, where like James Bond, he goes around the world on secret missions to stop a terrorist organization called SAVAGE, which stands for Specialist Administrators of Vengeance, Anarchy and Global Extortion. Yep, with a name like that, you can just tell that these are a bunch of nasty people. Just like the movie, right? Seriously, I'm surprised we don't see Rambo driving around in an Aston Martin or flying around in a jetpack. However, the intro of the show does look pretty badass. And despite it being a cartoon, Rambo still uses weapons like his knife and machine guns, despite the fact that Rambo is now part of an organization called the Freedom Force. I guess if you want freedom, you have to kick ass first. Still, I think the animated series has become something of an obscure curiosity for fans over the years, and definitely something you have to see to believe. Also, Rambo, the Force of Freedom is the only time you're going to see Rambo dressed up as Santa and getting licked by a dinosaur. Yeah, a dinosaur. Because, you know, Rambo. Number 3, action figures. So what with the video game and animated series, Rambo had become a big thing, so naturally a toy lineup ensued, and in 1986 Coleco released this epic action figurine collection. The figures look just like their movie counterparts. Look at Rambo, he looks just like Sylvester Stallone, and they were taller than your average figures at that time too. They also had squishy heads like the Masters of the Universe lineup, and I was never a fan of squishy heads. Squishy heads are weird. But regardless, the figures were robust and tough, and had awesome vehicles, but just like the animated series, the action figures fizzled out, which is a shame as they were actually pretty badass. Number 2, actors who were nearly Rambo. As mentioned, not many actors or directors wanted anything to do with First Blood. When it came time to casting the main lead, Rambo himself, the studio had a tough time finding someone to don the knife and headband. Many actors were considered but turned down the role because they felt it was too violent. These include Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, Clint Eastwood, John Travolta, and even Chuck Norris himself. But Chuck Norris and the fist that he keeps under his beard weren't having a bar of it. Finally, one actor was interested, that being Al Pacino, but he couldn't see eye to eye with the producers. He wanted to play Rambo less sympathetic and more like how he was in the book, a madman with an epic bloodlust, who was a ticking time bomb of crazy. But the producers didn't want to go with this approach, so Pacino left the project, and did Scarface instead, where he found the crazy that he was looking for. So Stallone ended up getting the part and played the part with a lot of heart and sadness, making Rambo a sad and empathetic character. In the sequels, he was more of a generic action hero, but regardless, Stallone has forever been immortalized as the face of John Rambo. Number 1, Rambo and apples. So just how did author David Morrell come up with the name Rambo? It's very distinctive, but at the same time it does sound like a name that could be a code name in the army. There is just something about it that stands out. Well, believe it or not, the name Rambo actually came from the unlikeliest of places. Apples. Yeah, that's right. Simple, round, tasty apples. There are in fact a type of apples called Rambo apples. And one night while Morrell was trying to come up with a name for his war-torn fictional character, his wife handed him a Rambo apple. And voila, obviously our friendly green fruit lit a spark in Morrell's head. And Rambo it was. So not only have apples been giving us vitamin C and fibre, but apples have also given us Rambo, one of the most distinctive action hero names ever. More proof that apples are awesome. Well guys, that was my look into Rambo and First Blood, and I still think the original First Blood is very powerful and haunting, and has plenty of great action to tide you over while being invested in the story. The sequels, though cheesy and realistic, are still enjoyable, so Rambo has always been a favourite to me. Anyway, I'm Minty and I'm off to get some Rambo apples. See ya!